Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Cooking the Books with Heather. On this episode, we are going to be working from Ashley Christensen's Poole's Diner cookbook, and we're going to be making roasted banana creme caramel. Now, we had a bunch of bananas. We had 3 of them left over, just getting dark on the counter, and we were looking for something to do with these, and there's a banana pudding recipe that actually requires roasting them as well in the Deeper in Roots cookbook, but this recipe, that takes way more bananas. This recipe really only calls for 1 banana and probably doesn't even use quite all of that. We're gonna go ahead and do the 3 that we had here, because as you can tell, they're getting really dark, won't last very much longer on the counter, and I'm not ready to actually make all of this today. I'm not ready to do the whole custard and caramel stuff today, but while the bananas are like this, we're gonna go ahead and roast them, and then when we're done roasting them, we take care of them, and then after we do that, they will last in the refrigerator for a few days until I'm ready to actually do the rest of this. So all we're doing right now is roasting these bananas. I've got my convection oven on at 400, and we're going to put these in for about 25 minutes, and they're going to be black when they come out. So no pictures of those in here, but like I said, Vivian Howard's Deeper in Roots cookbook does a similar thing for her banana pudding, and there's a picture of them in there, and so that's what I'm going for, just black. So we'll be back. My bananas were in the oven for exactly 25 minutes. They're not quite black, but they're very brown. And they smelled a little bit like roasted marshmallows while they were in there. Not sure why. That was interesting. And they've been cooling for a really long time, longer than they should have probably, because you're supposed to put the juices in here with the flesh of the bananas, and a lot of that is sort of stuck. So we'll see how much of that we get. I'm glad I did more than one, because this one in particular looks like it puffed up. You know, they all kind of puffed up, but this one looks like there's not even that much left in it. So now the goal is to remove the flesh, put it in the food processor and with the juices that I can get, and make it a smooth paste. So I'm going to do that. They came out of the skins a lot easier than I expected, so that's good. I'm trying to get some of this sticky liquid off of the parchment paper. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. It certainly didn't keep any of it from going underneath. So maybe I need to more thoroughly cover the parchment paper next time, because a lot of it did go under. So I think that's about all the juice that I can salvage from there. Oh. Not all of it's super stuck, so I'm gonna get as much off the baking tray as I can. So now the goal is just to whir this up until it's smooth. I'm gonna call that done. And I'm gonna just transfer this into a container and put it into the refrigerator, and we'll have it when we're ready to finish making this recipe. So now it's been probably about a week. I ended up putting my roasted banana in the freezer, but we're ready to actually make the creme caramel. And I've got everything defrosted and laid out, so hopefully we'll be able to do this. You might not get the best shot of actually making the custard, because we're not gonna reset up over there, because it all kind of has to happen relatively quickly, but I have my oven preheated, convection 275. If you're doing it on a regular, it'll be 300. I've got my ramekins here. You're supposed to spray them with nonstick spray. I don't keep that in the house. I just buttered them and I have them in this pan with a kitchen towel I don't much care about underneath so they don't move a lot. We're going to be putting hot water in there, cooking them in a bain-marie, which is just hot water so it's moist in the oven, and the temperature changes less quickly than with air around it. Anyway, our first step now is to make the caramel that goes in the bottom. So I've got my hot water that I'm planning to use for this, and I've got some sugar in here, and you just add a little bit of water and then turn it on medium-high heat, I'm pretty sure. Yes. And then we're gonna cook this until it turns a, what does she say, very deep amber color. Caramel is, I mean, I've made caramel before, I've made caramel sauce before, whatever. It can be a little challenging, so we'll see what happens here. There are several philosophies about caramel, whether you stir, whether you don't, whether you just swirl, whether you use a pastry brush to get the crystals off the side. I'm just gonna not stir and hope for the best. I don't have a candy thermometer, which she suggests, but in my experience, candy thermometers, like the standard non-digital candy thermometers, don't work very well when you don't have very much of this mixture, because it's sort of a long thing that you clip to the pan, and you have to make sure the bulb is in the mixture, in the sugar mixture, and it's hard. But I do have this, which is sort of an instant read thermometer. You use it for meat, whatever, but it does go up to, I think it said 572 degrees, so that should be fine. We're cooking this to 360 Fahrenheit. So we're just gonna let it go. Got it on the heat she suggests, and we're gonna watch it and maybe swirl it, kind of get the sugar that doesn't look liquefied yet. It's not all really dissolved in that water, but it liquefies at a certain temperature, right? So I'm gonna check it occasionally with this thermometer, but right now it's nowhere near caramel color. So we're gonna see, we'll kind of maybe time how long it takes. It's only been about 2 or 3 minutes, and it's already starting to come up to temperature and starting to change color. And this is when you have to really pay attention to it, because this change can happen really quickly. Like, this says we're above that temperature, but it is not, phew, it is not quite a deep amber color yet. So I'm gonna go for color, but it's going very, very quickly. And I didn't get any crystallization on the edges. And it's starting to smell like caramel. Ooh, oh yeah, I think we're almost there. So so now we take it off and swirl it for 2 minutes until you can't see the bottom of the pan. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but I think that just means it's getting thicker. It's definitely darkening still, even after I've taken it off the heat. Very dark, definitely starting to smell quite a bit toasty. So, all right. Close to burnt, but I think we're okay. That happened very, very quickly. because I think it's been like a total of about 4 minutes. No, yeah, 4 minutes. All right, so now I put about a tablespoon of this into the bottom of each of these ramekins. I'm just gonna kind of divide this equally among all of my ramekins. And this will harden. Basically, you've cooked this sugar until it will harden to a solid state in the bottom here. And you want that to happen before you put the custard in, so. And it's hot, so I'm not gonna touch that. As much as I want to, not gonna touch that. All right, so now we're gonna make our custard. And I've got everything here. So we're going to put the rest of the sugar the recipe calls for in this saucepan. I think I forgot to get something to stir with, but I'll get that soon. We have some whole milk. We have some heavy cream. We need a pinch of salt, some vanilla, and the banana puree. Now, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to whisk this or... Yep, whisk together. All right, got my whisk here that I'm going to use later as well, but this will be fine. So we're whisking this together and on medium heat. So I'm just going to go with 5. And remember how I said that it calls for 1 banana and I went ahead and did 3 because that's what I had and I wanted to use them up. That measured amount of banana that I was supposed to have, I used almost all of the 3 bananas that I roasted. So go ahead and do more than it says, otherwise you might not have enough. I am going to, now we don't need to whisk anymore, I'm just gonna stir and get a rubber spatula to stir this. And we cook this to 180 degrees. So I'm gonna just use this to verify when we get there, when I think we're there. Doesn't give you any suggestions on time, but my banana was cold, everything else was cold, so it might take a little bit to come up to that temperature. We are really close to 180, and when I leave it alone for too long, it's starting to bubble. So I think that's probably right about where 180 is with this mixture. I'll let it go for about another minute maybe, and check it, probably less than a minute, and check it again, and I think we'll be there. Definitely at 180 now. All right, so I'm gonna take it off of the heat, and now I have egg yolks that I wanna do right here, but because that's hot, I'm gonna get a towel, just say. Since I wanna do this here for filming purposes, I'm just gonna put these towels down, and it'll also it'll help the bowl not spin around and not get the heat from there. So I'm just gonna use the same whisk that I used to whisk that up together and whisk these until they lighten in color. Okay, I think that's good enough. And now we add a little bit of this at a time to this mixture and whisk it the whole time. Just try not to waste any of that before we add the rest. This is tempering the egg yolks so that, you know, they don't curdle and become scrambled eggs. So. And then we can go ahead and add the rest in without being so gentle with it, because the eggs have sort of gotten warmer and they shouldn't curdle, but we also need to whisk that. So I can't do both at the same time, but there we go. Get this all in here. Just try to make sure I've got as much out of here as possible, because I don't know if that's the kind of person I am. I hate to be wasteful. All right. Okay, now we're just gonna divide this into these ramekins, trying to be as, even as possible. So I'm gonna start with a little bit less than I think they should hold. Okay, now we put this hot water, it's not super hot anymore, but whatever, into this dish. Try not to get it into the ramekins until it comes up about halfway. A lot of people do this while it's sitting in the oven, which is not a bad idea, especially if the water is boiling, but I think we'll be okay. I think that'll do. That'll do for me. And I'm gonna put these in the oven for 60 to 90 minutes, or until they just give a slight jiggle. They should be set throughout. So that's my plan. So I'm gonna just put these in the oven and we'll check in on them when they're done. It has been exactly 60 minutes and I just took these out of the oven, and because they have basically no jiggle at all. You can kind of see, I don't see any jiggle. So I think that is done. I didn't check them at all before 60 minutes, but I think we're good. I'm gonna take these out of the hot water bath and let them cool a little bit, and then they go in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you watched me make roasted banana creme caramel from the Poole's Diner cookbook. Now, I measured everything correctly, and I followed the directions almost perfectly, but I feel like there were maybe some measurement problems with this recipe. So it was supposed to make 6 4-ounce custards. I'm pretty sure I didn't get 4 full ounces in any of my custards. And adding up all of the ingredients, that didn't seem like it would be 3 cups of stuff. 6 4-ounce, yeah, that'd be 3 cups. I don't think there was 3 cups of stuff there. And we would have preferred, I think, for the custard to be a little bit thicker, because it kind of turned out thin when we turned it over. It wasn't as beautiful as expected. Now, I think my custard cups do hold 6 to 8 ounces, so they weren't full. So a thinner cup, a less volume cup, would have made it thicker. But anyway, I feel like that wasn't quite right. I also feel like 1 banana wouldn't have given me a 1/2 cup of banana puree. Maybe if the bananas had been less ripe, maybe. I still don't think so, but my husband does want to try it again with less ripe bananas, and maybe making them thicker, making maybe 4 instead of 6. And the caramel. I should have trusted my thermometer. It was definitely really, really, really close to burnt. Didn't taste horrible, but I should have trusted the instructions and taken it off of the heat and swirled it. I think that probably would have brought it up to the color I was looking for, because when I got to the temperature, it certainly wasn't the darker color that I was expecting, and so that's why I left it on longer. Anyway, trust those instructions. Caramelized sugar usually follows the temperature pretty well, and that was my bad. But everything else, it was it's a pretty presentation when you do it correctly, when you turn it over and you get it all out perfectly. It's beautiful. It could be a very impressive dish if you really like bananas. The banana flavor, I'm not a super fan of bananas. Banana flavor was pronounced, but not overwhelming. I like bananas, but I'm not a super fan of especially really, really ripe bananas. But even though I wasn't a super fan, I really liked it. My husband liked it. I don't think we even let the kids try it because timing didn't work out. I don't know. Anyway, so that's it for this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and come back next week to watch me cook something else.